Ambassador, I do have to ask you also, your comment yesterday on CNN about coups and orchestrating them, it's getting a lot of play, as you know. What would you like to say to that? Obviously, the U.S. is a world superpower, and were you surprised that some of the pickup there was about, your talk? Obviously, you've written about Venezuela a lot in your book.
Well, I think there are a lot of snowflakes out there that don't understand what you need to do to protect the United States.
It's been a busy few years for American democracy, and with our federal government focused on unraveling what really happened on January 6th, plenty of mischief is slipping through the cracks. Fortunately for no one, former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton is back to remind us that Republicans also love foreign coups, too.
I'm not going to get into specifics. I did write about Venezuela in my memoir. And I think that any president that's not willing to do what it takes to protect the interest of the American people needs to have some counseling.
Bolton joined the lunatic asylum at Newsmax to brag about just how many times Republican leaders have asked for his help overthrowing sovereign governments. Bolton had drawn fire for telling CNN's Jake Tapper that he was proud of his work undermining the global rule of law. Bolton, proving that you don't need to be a grown-up to stage a coup, slapped back, calling his critics snowflakes. John Bolton is a particular type of Republican, the kind who grew up reading spy novels and viewing the CIA's Cold War excesses not as human rights tragedies, but as cool action stories to tell your right-wing friends. And Bolton has been urging war as the solution to every problem since Ronald Reagan brought him into the government in 1989. And Bolton has a long history of urging whoever the president is at the time to just invade his way to American greatness. Bolton has called for coups or invasions of countries including, but absolutely not limited to, Venezuela, Guatemala, North Korea, Cuba, China, Syria, Russia, Iran, Iraq, Guatemala again, and Canada. It's unclear if Bolton was joking about that last one. Bolton is trying to launder his Trumpy reputation by distancing himself from the January 6th American coup, but Bolton is pretty clear that his morals weren't the stopping point. As Bolton has mentioned in the past, his first thought was that Trump's team was just too stupid to succeed. If Trump had smarter deputies, Bolton might not have been so resistant to attacking democracy here at home. Bolton and the Republicans like him, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and Liz Cheney, to name just a few, believe that in order for America to be safe, we need to be in the nation-toppling business. That was the standard Cold War line, reheated for the Republican War on Terror, and it's back again. There's just one problem. That logic doesn't actually work. In fact, most of Bolton's most beloved CIA coups led to huge strategic drawbacks for the U.S. down the road. But Bolton doesn't actually care about crafting smart policy. He's not working for you. That's because, for the most part, Republicans have been thrown out of office for following Bolton's advice. And once the GOP is out of power, the mess that they created is someone else's job. If that sounds pretty familiar given the domestic coup we just experienced, well, the Republican playbook hasn't changed much since the days of the Berlin Wall. Bolton knows that most coups end up hurting the U.S. strategic position abroad. So why doesn't he seem to care? One big reason is because he isn't actually interested in advancing American foreign policy. He's mainly interested in creating a perpetual conflict to benefit a literal army of defense contractors, weapons manufacturers, and fossil fuel companies. Bolton sits on many of their boards, and he's especially interested in helping them out. And that is the one true Republican constituency, the perpetual war industry. When Bolton celebrates planning countless coups, he isn't concerned about the rule of law or advancing the values of the country he claims to be protecting, because those actions don't actually make us any safer. But they do buy plenty of second and third homes for executives at Boeing and Raytheon. And despite how the GOP may change, they never lose their commitment to profitable war. Unfortunately, there isn't much that can be done to hold Bolton accountable for his career of death and destruction. He may even find his way back into government if Republicans win the White House again in 2024. In his fever to protect America's institutions by undermining everyone else's, Bolton helped bring about Donald Trump's own attempted coup. Add one more nation to Bolton's grim list. his own.